Hey everyone, good evening. I'm Robert Buller. I'm the Director of Debate at the University of San Francisco. I'm more than a little bit concerned about the content of our next speaker's presentation. She will likely say something quite controversial, such as that the perception that I'm a productive academic is just a mirage. Or perhaps that I'm not really doing my job at all here at the university. Fortunately, that speaker is Chisholm Okorafor, an outstanding speaker and someone that I trust to not destroy my reputation today. Chisholm is the star of the USF debate team. She's a highly decorated speaker, and she's here tonight to tell us about who is working hard and who is hardly working. We all have a responsibility for creating a world where all of us engage in meaningful work, and to that end, I'm happy to introduce Chisholm. Selected for her second consecutive speaker showcase, a feat that I believe no other USF student has done in the 26 years of this competition. Please give a warm welcome to Chisholm Okorafor.
Thanks, Dr. B. I'm Chisholm Okorafor, and I'll be presenting Working Hard or Hardly Working. Like my colleague before said, I think it's really important that we recognize that there's a lot of speech on this campus that is revolutionary in nature and deserves all of the accolades, all of the praise. So I'm just really grateful to be here again, two-time champ, baby, let's go. We've heard it all before, right? Hard work pays off. Despite this phrase being a common maxim, it probably won't surprise you to know that it's not really true. Hard work doesn't always pay off. But let me take it a step further. A lot of people are working harder than ever, and yet simultaneously doing nothing at all. In fact, in 2022, a Gallup poll reported that as many as 60% of employees were quiet quitting. They show up for work, but they can't tell you what exactly they do or why they're doing it. They're entirely psychologically disengaged from their jobs. As college students, the hope is that we're pursuing higher education in subjects that excite us, that we're passionate about, and that we believe can make a difference. But a Forbes article from 2015 found a split in how true this actually is. College students who major in things like English, physics, and fine arts are more likely to be pursuing a field that they actually like, as opposed to students who are pursuing things like accounting, marketing, and law. This means that a huge portion of college students are studying hard and maybe deep in debt for the chance to get a degree that they might not even like, all for the chance at a well-paying job. But this chance comes at a cost. A recent study found that over 50% of those who regret their major do so because they had a different interest they wanted to pursue and have now missed their chance. But who can account for all of these staggering numbers? Let's turn to David Graeber, a foremost British anthropologist. Graeber did a lot of great work, but I particularly want to focus on his 2018 book, Bullshit Jobs. This book puts into words the sinister phenomena that we've all been noticing, but nobody had yet put into words. That we have built a society where we could be doing less work and finding some other meaning in our lives, but instead we're doing meaningless work and living our lives less. So today I want to walk you through what a BS job is, how we got so many of them, things that Graeber might have missed, and hopefully by the end, we'll know what to do about this whole mess. So what is a BS job? Graeber defines it as a job that is a form of paid employment that is so completely pointless, unnecessary, or even harmful that even the employees themselves can't justify the job's existence, even though as per the conditions of employment, the employee is obliged to pretend that this isn't the case. And this is a definition that I think really gets at the heart of our intuitive understanding that some jobs are just a little bit less real than others. It makes good use as well of the double meaning of BS. Not only are you not actually being productive in a BS job, but you also have to BS about the whole situation. And Graeber laid out 5 different types of BS jobs. There are first flunkies, who only exist to make their superiors feel important in some way. Think about receptionists, administrative assistants, store greeters. And then there are goons, who act to harm or deceive others for the benefit of their employer, or to prevent other goons from doing the same. So think about telemarketers or lobbyists. Then you have duct tapers. These are the guys who get paid to fix problems that shouldn't exist. These are the jobs that map most easily to automation or elimination because by their very nature, they're a one-time fix that's being artificially inflated. Think of if a hotel still had an old-timey elevator operator. The cost of paying that guy's salary for years has got to be less than just buying an automatic elevator. And then you have box tickers. These are the people who create the appearance that something useful is being done when it's actually not. These guys only exist so that an institution can claim it's doing something that it isn't doing. So think corporate compliance lawyers in a firm where everyone knows the real illegal stuff is being done overseas. And finally, you have taskmasters. These are the people who create BS work for other people. So a lot of middle management. And then you have BS tasks. You might be working a real job, but a part or portion of your job is BS. And according to the State of Work report, jobs are becoming more and more BS. In fact, in 2016, office workers reported spending 46% of their day on their actual jobs. By 2023, that number had dropped to 36%. This means more and more of our time at work is now being taken up by BS tasks instead of actual productivity. And then you have BS industries. These are entire industries that literally don't have to exist. You might work in a non-BS job, but be in a BS industry. So take private health insurance, which former President Obama literally said only still exists because of the countless jobs it provides, and also because the wealthy profit off of preventable diseases. Anyway, why do these things even suck so much? I mean, why is this even a problem? Why am I here talking about this? It's seemingly an ideal situation, right? You're getting paid, oftentimes a lot, to do nothing. Who would complain about that? Well, the hidden caveat when we hear getting paid to do nothing is the assumption that you could then fill that nothing with something else. Like if nobody's coming in the building or calling the phone, a receptionist can just spend their time writing that screenplay they always dreamed about. But in a BS job, you are actually often being paid to do nothing. You're paid to engage in the pretense of activity while covering for the fact that you are entirely superfluous. And keeping up that charade, Graeber found, is actually extremely psychologically, emotionally, and even physically damaging. Testimonials from BS workers have included developing clinical anxiety, depression, chronic stress, autoimmune disorders, PTSD, and even suicidality. This is because, as a general rule, human beings like to do things, and we like for our things to have an impact on the world around us. We like to point at something and say, I did that, I caused that, that wouldn't have happened without me. It's called the pleasure at being the cause, and Graeber argues that it's the baseline for our very sense of self. So it's no wonder that BS jobs are maddening, depressing, and downright physically harmful. They represent an attack on our very humanity. They're Marx's alienation taken to its logical conclusion. So if that's a BS job, how do we get so many of them? I mean, I could take you through the entire timeline of the history of work, starting with the caveman times and ending in the factory and industrial revolution, but for the purposes of what we're doing here today, our story actually starts in 1973 with the development of the internet. And this sparked something called the information age, which Merriam-Webster defines as the age in which information has become a commodity that is quickly and widely disseminated through the internet. Now in the 1980s, shortly after, you had a number of neoliberal reforms, which led to the growth of information jobs. These are your administrators, consultants, analysts, investment bankers, middle management, jobs created in the rapidly expanding FIRE sector, which stands for finance, insurance, and real estate. Essentially, more and more of our economy began to be oriented around debt, speculation, and finance, rather than actual production. If anyone has lived through the 2008 bubble and subsequent crash, you can probably tell that this is a much more volatile way to organize the economy. And even if we're producing more for more people, the percentage of people that it takes to produce these things has essentially stayed the same. What's changed is that we've added an army of people to manage basically the same supply lines that we've had for decades. And so when we see graphs like this that detail the divergence of production, productivity, and compensation, the money sucked out of the working class didn't just go to the pockets of the 1%, but it also went to finance the creation of a massive managerial class of MBAs and speculators who have little to do with the actual production process. But there is one thing that I think Graeber missed, and I found it within Angela Davis. Last year, I went to a critical resistance conference where she spoke, and she talked about the fact that since the 1980s, with the manufacturing industry disappearing overseas, the United States has been hiding its unemployment crisis with mass incarceration. Davis believes that we've essentially outgrown the number of people for our current organization of the economy. So all of the excess, particularly of the Black and brown population, has been shuffled behind bars. And it does make sense when you look at the raw numbers of it. According to the world prison population in 2024, the United States leads the world in number of incarcerated people, with more than 2 million people in prisons nationwide. And this number is roughly equivalent to 25% of the world's total population. The US also had the highest incarceration rate until very, very recently. In a 1989 paper called Mass Racism, Reflections on the Prison Industrial Complex, Davis explains that by segregating people labeled as criminals, prison simultaneously fortifies and conceals the structural racism of the US economy. Claims of low unemployment rates, even in Black communities, make sense only if one assumes that the vast number of people in prison have actually disappeared and thus have no legitimate claims to jobs. We have so many people locked behind bars for false accusations and petty offenses, which are themselves often the direct results of our unemployment crisis, like loitering and homelessness and theft. Essentially, at the same time as mass incarceration rates went up, BS jobs began to proliferate, all to hide the fact that we've run out of real jobs. So America's unemployment looks like this. A very slim portion of the population is actually working, that is productive at the behest of the 1%. Another section of the economy is employed in BS jobs, hiding their unemployment. And the undesirables, the poor, the Black and brown, the deviants, they're shuffled off behind bars, vanishing a massive portion of the would-be unemployed, out of sight and out of mind. So why did this whole system develop, and why was it allowed to stay in place? The neoliberal reformists of the 60s and 70s didn't set out to create the current system. They were looking to produce economic results, ones that they consistently failed to produce, as the Guardian details. So why? Because it's beneficial to those in power. Graeber describes the economy as a web of resentment, with each faction resenting the other. The unemployed resent the employed. The employed resent the unemployed. Prisoners resent high-wage earners, and high-wage earners resent prisoners. Real workers resent everybody else, and everybody resents the real workers. That kind of political landscape is very convenient if you want to distract the working class from the fact that they're being fleeced by the wealthy. Okay, so that's all well and depressing. But what is to be done? Well, we could just work less, right? If there aren't enough real jobs for our current organization of the economy, let's stop pretending like there are. Let's phase out the BS jobs and replace them with real ones so we can start working meaningful jobs again. Here's a secret. All of the fear-mongering about automation taking away jobs was true. But what those doom prophets got wrong is that when automation causing mass unemployment isn't in the future, it's in the past. Graeber says we've simply stopped the gap by adding dummy jobs that are effectively made up. 60% of the workforce has been phased out because of these BS jobs. And it's not a bad thing that automation took over these jobs. That's the whole point of technology, right? For them to take over more work. But what do we do about the humans? Well, a study in 2016 found that the average worker is only actually productive for about 3 hours a day. But we've created a society in which many people have to work 8 hours a day just to make a living, and a lot of people work a lot longer. Maybe instead of a 40-hour work week, we can turn to a 15-hour work week, or something even lower. That way, instead of one person putting in 50 hours at a non-BS job with 2 BS workers hanging on, we could have 3 non-BS workers each working 17-hour weeks. We'd be paying more people to work fewer hours and spreading out the employment so that more people are working real jobs but spending less time at those real jobs. And on top of that, American workers could receive amenities that the rest of the developed world already has. Paid time off, paid maternity and paternity leave, those siestas that Iberians are always raving about. But that way, more people could spend more time on hobbies and leisure, human things. But I'm under no illusion that this would be easy. For one, it would require the elimination of scores of jobs and probably even entire industries. And this, to put it lightly, there would be significant political pushback, and the project that I'm suggesting would be not only damaging to the short-term profits of capitalists, but also damaging to the entire project of capitalism itself. What I will say though is that I believe the only way out of the BS that we find ourselves in is to demand better. We deserve more time off. We deserve an end to disguising unemployment with fake jobs or jail, and we deserve meaningful work. And the promise that Fortune 500 companies won't rake in record profits if we get those things is too bad, so sad. Just like with climate change or foreign policy, if the economy is the thing that's keeping us from living better, more desirable lives, then it's the economy that has to change, not our expectations for life. We've seen clear as day that students have the power to change the world. As each one of us gets ready to enter the workforce, we have to demand an end to the BS.